We are continuing with Module 5, Problem Solving with Python. For Unit 8, we're going to be talking about branching and decision structures. So if you remember from the last unit, we were talking about a variety of different program flows. We learned about top-down and invocation, and we're going to learn a third type of program flow in this unit called branching. In order to do that, we need to refresh our memories on these relational operators: less than, greater than or equal to, and the two at the top, equal to, the dual equal signs, and not equal to, which is exclamation point equal to. And we also need to refresh our memory on the logic operators and, or, and not. These are going to be very critical to the branching structure. So we're going to learn about an if structure. Now, Python is case sensitive, so we're going to use a lowercase if with some kind of a condition and then a full colon. And then we're going to tab in and do any of the things that we would like to under that if condition. So here is an example. If age is equal to 2, that means exactly equal to 2, we're going to print to the screen, you're in the terrific 2s. Here's another example. If current time is greater than class start time, I have the full colon, tab in, print, you are late for class. The if structure allows us to decide whether or not we want to execute logic. For instance, if age is not equal to 2, it will completely skip over that print statement. If the current time is not greater than class start time, it will completely skip over that print statement. So let's try it out. So I'm going to use Code Sculptor to create these programs. On line 1, I'm just going to put a comment indicating that we're learning about the if structure. And we're going to do a little bit of a refresher. On line 3, I'm just going to ask the user how old they are so that I can have a number to do some things with in my if statement. But if you remember, input always brings things in as a string. And if I would like age to be a number, if you remember, we can typecast by using the data type followed by the parentheses. Anything that I put inside of the parentheses is what I would like to typecast. And so I would like to change their input from a string to an integer and then put that in a variable called age. And then we're just going to print the age just to make sure that we got it. So if I press the run button, it pops up a window asking me how old they are, and I can see the output of the program run on the right-hand side of the screen. Now that I have their age as a number, I'm going to say if they're exactly 15 years old, they can get their learner's permit. The way that we're going to do that is using an if statement. So I'm going to say if age is equal to 15, that would be exactly equal to 15. And then I'm going to use the full colon. As soon as I press enter, Code Sculptor is going to tab in for me. And then I will print something like, yay, you can get your learner's permit. I'll put a couple of exclamation points in there because that is very exciting. Now I want you to notice that if I am on the end of that print statement and I press the enter key, my cursor is going to stay tabbed in. And as long as I keep pressing the enter key, my cursor remains tabbed in, because everything that is tabbed in will stay under the if statement. If I would like it to be outside of the if statement or done, I'm going to have to flush back to the left. And now let's run the program and see how it acts. So if I say, how old are you? And I say 15, I would expect it to display as an output that they can get their learner's permit. But if I put anything else, it is going to skip the print statement on line 7. And that is the nature of a decision structure, is I can decide which logic to run and which logic to skip. Let's do another one. So I'm going to make sure that I'm flushed to the left, and I'm going to say if age is greater than or equal to 85, and I'm going to use the full colon, press the enter key, and it will tab in. Now I'm going to print something like, you should probably not be driving. Okay, I might also suggest that they try Uber. So let's try this age greater than or equal to 15. Now I'm going to run. This time, if they are greater than or equal to 85, how about if I say 86? I would expect it to print lines 10 and 11. And there it is. You should probably not be driving. Have you tried Uber? Notice that it definitely skipped the print statement on line 7 because 86 is most definitely not equal to 5. If I run it again with something that is not greater than equal to 85, like 50, it is going to skip the print statement on line 7 because 50 is not 15, and it's going to skip the print statements on line 10 and 11 because 50 is not greater than or equal to 85. So let's try another one. This time I'm going to prompt them for their grade in class. I'm going to convert it to a float by putting the entire input statement inside of the float parentheses, and then I'm going to put that in a variable called grade. And then we're going to use our if statement again to determine what grade they are getting. So on line 16, I'm going to say if grade is less than 74, I'm going to print inside of the print statement. Notice that it's tabbed in. Sorry, you'll have to take the class again. So if I run the program, I should expect me to prompt for age. And once I have keyed in an age, the next thing I expect to do is to prompt for a class grade. So maybe I'll put 85. Do you think the 85 will run the print statement on line 17? I would see if you can answer that question before you press the enter key. And if you answered, it will skip the print statement, you're absolutely right. Now, I don't want you to think that the only thing that we can just do inside of an if statement is print things. So this time, I'm going to say that if grade is over 95.1, I'm going to ask them if they missed any assignments. So we need to make sure that I'm back flush to the left on line 19, and I'm going to say if grade is greater than 95.1 with the semicolon, I'm going to prompt them with a question. Did you miss any assignments? I don't need to convert that to a data type. I'll leave it as a string. I'm going to put it in the variable miss any, but it might be a good idea, like I did on line 14, enter your class grade. I gave them an example of what I was looking for, 1 to 100. So I'm going to add an example of what I'm looking for on line 20. And then the next thing that I'm going to do on line 21, if I press the enter key, it will tab in. I'm just going to print back what their response was. And I'm going to use the comma separator between the text field, missing assignments, and the variable miss any. All right, the only way that this if statement is going to run is if the grade on line 14, when they prompt me for the grade, it is greater than 95.1. So let's run it. This is asking for an age. Now this grade is going to have to be greater than 95.1 in order for line 19 to run. So I'm going to put 96. And I would expect it to prompt me, line 20, if I missed any assignments. Did you miss any? Yes or no? And then regardless of what they key in, line 21 is going to repeat back or print back whether or not they're missing any assignments. So I'm going to press the enter key, and every time I press the enter key, it tabs in. So I'm going to flash back to the left, and I'm going to say, if miss any is equal to no, I want to tell them that they must have worked very hard. So on line 23, if miss any is equal to no, this time I'm not comparing my if statement variable to a number. Now I'm comparing it to a string. So the is equal statement is comparing the variable to the string, lowercase no. And if they key in a lowercase no, I prompted them for that, so that's what I'm going to check with. If they enter that, it's going to say you must have worked very hard. So let's run it one more time. I need an age, and this prompt, I'm going to have to put in something greater than 95.1 for the if statement on line 19. So I'll put in 96. It's going to prompt me. Now if I key in the word no, I would expect that variable on line 23 to equal no, and it will print, you must have worked very hard. I'm going to run this one more time, because the only way that I can get to the variable miss any is from line 19. So if I key in something like my grade, let's say if I put a 75, line 19 is not going to execute because 75 is not greater than 95.1. What do you think will happen when I try to print the miss any variable on line 23. So stop the video and think about it for a minute. Make a guess about what you think might happen, and then let's see what happens when I press my enter key. It is giving me an error and my program is not running. If I look on my output, it says because miss any is not defined. So this is something to take into consideration when you're using branching structures like this, is that if I was never able to get to the prompt on line 20 because my grade was not high enough, that variable is not going to exist. So one of the things that I need to do is declare the variable in advance. Miss any, I'm just going to set it equal to an empty string. And then I'm going to run the program one more time and see if declaring the variable on line 3 means that it will exist. So now I'm going to have a low grade that does not prompt for miss any, and my program runs because now that variable exists when it attempts to compare it on line 25 to a string value. So the last thing that we're going to do is use a couple of variables, miss any and age. And I'm going to use the logic operator and between these two variables. So I'm going to say if miss any is equal to yes, lowercase, because I asked him for it in lowercase, and at the same time age is less than 18, I'm going to print something kind of snarky to them. Since they're a minor, I'm going to ask them if their mama knows, and not to tell their little brother because mama will know. So let's run it one more time. The only way that line 29 is going to run is if miss any is yes. That means that I have to be able to set miss any, which is on line 22. So I also need an age that is less than 18. So my first prompt, how old are you? I need something that is less than 18. I need a grade that is high enough so that it will prompt me if I have missed any on line 22. So now I'm going to put in 9-7. It says, did you miss any assignments? Now I'm going to say yes. Those are the two conditions that had to be true in order for the if statement on line 29 to run. So right now, the if statements, these are all a bunch of standalone if statements, and they either run or they do not. They run if the condition is true. If the condition is not true, then it just skips the logic, branches right over top of them. So is there something that I could add to this that if the condition is not true, maybe it would do